I was like, I'll just move to Poland.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Was poor. It was grey and dark and dingy. I flew here without my luggage.
What?
Yeah.
You're seeing this from the English lens, I guess.
From the English lens,
Yeah.
exactly, how I consider it. Polish musicians are really good.
Yeah.
For me, Warsaw is the best. Compared to what it was like
Yeah.
10, 15 years ago,
Yeah.
now this is the place kind of to be in Europe.
Hi everyone, my name is Vaibhav,
And I'm Alexis,
and this is Why Poland.
where we talk to people from all walks of life who have chosen to make Poland their home.
And today's episode, we're going to be talking with Zach Thurston,
He is an English teacher, musician, and football enthusiast.
and he has been living in Warsaw for over 7 years now. I hope you enjoy the episode.
And we're here today with Zachary Thurston,
Hello, nice to meet you.
Poland resident for how many years?
7 years.
Wow.
Zach, why Poland?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me on. Why Poland? That's a good question. So, I, like many expats, technically, am I even an expat?
Technically, actually, not really.
That's okay. We should move on to this later, actually.
We should talk about
The
this.
expat thing, I think people...
It's a social construct.
Yeah, exactly right. Whereas technically I'm just a migrant, right? Right. Anyway, moving on. So why Poland? Classic story of many migrants, expats, people that move here that I've come across is meeting a Polish woman. Or, right? That's pretty much how I started moving to Poland. I used to be a musician and I started working on ships and all over the world doing music. And basically I met Agata through a ship. She joins the ship on the 8th of March in the Netherlands. I joined in England. And we just kind of met. And this is how I ended up in Poland because we met through
A ship.
a ship. She was working in a shop on the ship.
And you were a musician,
And I was a musician
on said ship.
on the ship, yeah. And we ended up basically just meeting, and I moved kind of wildly to Poland after a month of knowing her.
How old were you then?
Oh God, I've known her. It'll be 8 years soon. So how old am I now? Nearly 32. 24.
Awesome.
Wow.
So I met her. We spent a month on the ship. Then I went and worked in Qatar.
Wow.
How long were you in Qatar?
4 or 5 months. She went to the USA for 6 months.
Okay.
And then, you know, we didn't even have, like, she was working in a camp in New Hampshire. No internet, right? So I was like, well, what the hell? You know, we just text each other for like 6 months and that was it, right? And then I was like, I'll just move to Poland.
These are things people do at 24, 25. Yeah, for love.
Yeah. So I ended up just saying, okay, I'll move to Poland. And my mum and dad were like, what the hell are you doing, Zachary? What are you doing? Why would you do such a thing? And I was like, I don't know. It's only a 2-hour flight. If it doesn't work out, I'll just come back. 7 years later, 7 years later, I've been here now, and
So you moved to Poland, and you moved in with Agata?
Yes. So we lived in an Airbnb for a while, and then we
Awesome.
found an apartment, and we lived together, and that was that. Yeah, and it kind of continued from there.
Had you been to Poland before?
No, well, this is kind of funny.
Did you know where Poland was?
Yes, I knew where Poland was. However, this is kind of funny, and this is where it gets a little bit silly, and this is just
Okay.
my ignorance, I guess, because now I know, and I always big up Poland. Whenever I talk about Poland to people, I'm like, always, oh, you should come here, it's great for holidays, you've got the beach, you've got the mountains, you've got the lakes, you've got nice cities.
Yeah.
But before I moved here, I had this idea
Yeah.
of Poland, that it was poor, it was grey and dark and dingy, and kind of because of films sometimes,
Yeah.
because unfortunately, even though Poland isn't technically in the east, it gets blocked with the same. So, and we always see films, right? And
Yeah.
the films we see, what do? They always make Russia, Belarus, Ukraine,
Very stereotypical.
stereotypical, like,
Yeah.
as if it's not a nice place.
Yeah.
And it's always grey and dark and dingy. So I remember Agata was in, before I came here,
Yeah.
it was like May of, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. And she had been in Sopot, and she sent me a picture, right? And I was like, what is this
Yes.
place? I was like, she was like, I'm in Tri-City. I'm in, Tri-City. I was like, there's blue seas. I was like, no way. I was like, you're in Spain. Like, what is this?
You're in Spain.
And she was like, no, I'm in Poland with my friends. We're at a lake or wherever we were,
Yeah.
right? And I was like, this is not what I expected it, because it seemed to, like, I always had this idea that it was going to be just dark and grey and cold.
Yeah.
That was just my idea of it. But, you know, it was nice. So I came here. I flew to Warsaw. Oh, sorry, to Wrocław. And just for 1 week to visit.
Right. And you had never been here before?
Never in my life had I been to Poland. I flew to Wrocław to meet Agata, and we were going to spend a few days in Wrocław. And basically, I came here, and this is, again, it's like a stupid story about this, but I flew here without my luggage.
What?
Yeah, right. So I live in a small village in England.
Yeah.
It's 2 hours away from Luton Airport.
Yeah.
And whenever I flew, it was always for music. I always packed all my bags. I always made sure I had all my instruments, my pedal boards and everything. I double checked everything.
Right.
This was the first time I'd gone abroad on a plane for a holiday and not work for so long. So I got my suitcase, my luggage.
Right.
I come downstairs. My car at the time was like this tiny little rubbish Peugeot 106 or something like that. And the seats were down because I'd had a big PA system in the back. So I put the seats up. I leave my luggage in front of the car.
Yeah.
And I reverse out the drive. And then And then I'm driving to Luton. But this is at 4 a.m, right? Because my flight was at like 6:30 or something like that. So I literally drive to Luton and I'm like, I look behind me and I was like, where the hell is my luggage, right? So I call my dad.
Yeah.
I'm like, Dad, I think I've left my luggage at home. And he was like, oh, let me have a look. Because it's like 5 a.m.
Sure.
So he goes downstairs and lo and behold, it's literally sat in the middle of the road down, like outside the house. So I'm like, great. And I was like, can you drive to the airport? And he was like, I'm not driving to the airport.
No.
He was like, do you have your phone? Do you have your wallet? Do you have your passport? And I was like, yes.
He's like, good luck, son.
Yeah, he was like, you'll be fine.
Oh my God.
So I flew to Wrocław.
So you came to Poland with nothing but the clothes on your back.
That's what makes the story a bit more fun, though.
Well, but this is the thing. It was only for a week.
Oh.
And then I actually moved to Poland about 6 months later. But the thing is, when I was here for the first time, that's when I experienced it, and I was like, Wrocław is quite nice.
Yeah.
And then I went to Żagań, this crappy little town. Not so nice. But you know, it's where she's from, so we spent a day or two there, whatever. And then we came to Warsaw, and it was like, wow, this is like a city. This is, the skyscrapers.
Yeah.
And since then, a few friends of mine who have come to visit have also been like, wow, so nice.
What year was it? 2016? When you first landed? 2017?
God, no, a bit later, I guess. 2017. October 2017. October the 19th, 2017 is when I moved here.
That is specific.
Quite good with dates. March 7th, March 8th.
There you go. No, but that's because I learned about Women's Day on March 8th. Because, again, I didn't know about this.
Right, yeah. It's not a big deal, I don't think, outside.
It's not, it's getting bigger.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a big deal in England. Or no one really talked about it until, and I remember the reason when I met Agata for the first time, we talked about on the 8th, and she was like, it's Women's Day today. And I was like, what's that? And that's kind of, that was my in, It's like, oh, really? Yeah. That's why I remember the date so well, because it was, that was the date, that was the 8th of March. Yeah. That's why I remember that, yeah.
So you ended up moving to Warsaw. Now, the second time you came, when you actually moved here, you came straight to Warsaw?
Yes.
Okay. And what was that like? Because this is pre-Brexit. When you moved to Poland.
Yes, things have changed now.
Things have changed now, so I would definitely want to talk about that. So you came and you were looking for a job. What kind of work did you get into?
So at the time, I didn't work. I literally moved here, and Agata was a student. Like, the only reason we ended up coming here was because Agata was still a student. So she was like, I have 2 more years of university to do, right? So she came back to Warsaw, and that's why I moved here.
Right.
So when I got here, I literally sat at home. And
real productive.
And that's why I just wasted money. I didn't work. I didn't do anything.
Right.
So you were not studying yourself?
No, I was just full-time musician at the time.
Okay.
So when I came here and she went to university, literally I didn't know anyone. I had no friends. I knew no one. My parents were like, what the hell are you doing? I was questioning what the hell I was doing.
Yeah.
And I sat around. And then within 3 months, my funds had kind of started to disperse, and I was like, well, what am I going to do now, right? Yeah. So then I had to work. I actually, it's terrible. So I ended up getting a job in Dubai, and I went away for 4 months, and I worked in Dubai, and then I came back again.
I think the only way you knew how to make money was in the Middle East.
The Middle East,
yeah, basically. So my first year in Poland, it just pretty much was me coming and going,
Okay.
because I had to, leave for work.
Sure.
But then eventually Karta was like, can you get a normal job? And that's when, funny enough, I got my job through the Expats of Warsaw.
Wow. You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Tell us about it. What job did you get?
Yeah.
Well, this is where it goes, right? Now, I was like, what have I done in my life? What do I know? What are my skills, right? So I was a bartender in England. Then I was a musician for many years. And that was it.
Well, also, if you were a bartender in England, you only know how to pour a beer.
Yeah, I was not. That's the thing. I wasn't a cocktail maker. Exactly like okay, maybe a mojito. You know, if I'm lucky. But that's true. I knew how to make cheap rum and coke and vodka Red Bull and 4 pints of Guinness and beer and stuff like that. That was all I could do, right? But again, so I didn't have any skills. My skills were being a musician, being a bartender, and my dad was a painter and decorator. So I would literally spend time sometimes when I wasn't a musician. I wasn't bartending. I'd go and work with my dad, and he would give me the worst jobs to do. And he'd be like, "Right, go sand down this window," and I'd spend an hour doing this rubbish job. But so I had like those sort of skills. I hadn't worked in corporate jobs.
Right.
I hadn't worked in anything else. That was that, right? You know. So when I came here to the Expats of Warsaw, I essentially was like, "Well, what am I going to do?" And the Karta was like, "Can you please look for something? I'm sick of you leaving for 4 months at a time, right? Which is hard in a relationship.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You know, and in the end, I went onto the Expats page and I just typed in, "Hey guys, I am looking for a job. These are my skills." And you know, I got a message. I got 2 messages. One from the British School of Warsaw and one from private preschool.
Right.
Awesome.
And this is how my life changed, you know.
Yeah.
And basically, I went from, you know, my kind of like musician lifestyle, which by the way is not very healthy, to kind of working a normal 9 to 5, let's say, but being in a preschool isn't that normal. Someone got in contact with me and was like, "Hey, where are you from?" And I was like, "Well, I'm from England." They were like, "Would you like to come in and try and have a go at working in a school?" And I was like, "I have no idea what I'm doing."
Sure.
I was like, "I've never worked with children. I'm good with kids, I think, but I've never worked with
kids." You haven't taught anyone music at that stage.
No, I'm not. That's it. I'm not a music teacher. I do English.
Right.
Yeah, but I use music to help. Right, that's kind of how.
All right, I thought you were a music teacher.
No.
Well, when you think of a preschool contacting you and you're a musician, you know.
So I do music with my lessons, but I don't
teach music.
I have done a few guitar lessons here and there, but I'm not primarily. Primarily I teach English to an extent, right? So I went into this school and I was like, "Well, what the hell am I going to do?" Like I turned up and I was just like overwhelmed, screaming children running around, and I was like, "What is going on? I don't really feel comfortable." But she was like, "Just try it. You use your music. Use you know." I didn't even have a guitar. Like I had an electric guitar with me, so I had to borrow someone's ukulele. And I went and I learned some like kids songs, played music with the kids, and then they were like, "All right, we'll hire you." And I was like, so I started off as literally as an assistant in a preschool at an English speaking school. Now I'm lucky because I'm from England. If you're a native speaker, and getting jobs is easier in certain fields.
In certain fields, yeah.
Especially in schools, because I'm required to be I'm a native speaker, so I may not be the best when it comes to grammar, but I know, I speak English from birth, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of have the upper hand where I got offered a lot of jobs, opportunities, which has benefited me massively in the last 5 years, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah,
right? That's great. And now that's my life, and I've been doing it, and now I've learned how to do the job right. It's been so many years now.
Yeah.
How many years has it been?
I guess 5.
5 years. Okay.
So I've learned how to now teach children, use music more, how to act and interact with children.
Right.
And I've done some courses to learn how to do more. Right. So actually now I've benefited a lot.
So it wasn't just learning on the job, but you sort of.
Well, I learned on the job, and then actually one of my schools put me through some training and stuff.
Oh, nice.
Which was great.
Yeah.
And now
And you're not an assistant anymore.
No, I'm now like this English teacher. So now this is like 5 years down the line.
Yeah.
I think it's a great example of how community helps its members, and you can learn from one another, but also find jobs and help.
Well, that's the thing. Like with this expat page, like it's helped because it helped me get a job. Yeah. And and that's great. Like, and it's such a good kind of thing for like other people to even meet people through events or through all these different sorts of things, right?
So that's why when I first moved in here, there were a few groups, but they were sort of unmoderated. And that's why I decided to create this Expats in Warsaw group, where we wanted to create a more moderated version of, a community where one can learn from each other and, share your own experiences so that, the other people from the community can benefit from your own experiences. And, people like yourself, if you've just moved in and you have no idea, no clue, how to sort of survive.
Right.
You can meet new people, learn from, them, what their experiences.
Find
jobs.
And
find friends, girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever you want. Because this is being used as a wide platform to ask any questions. Nowadays, more so, it's more questions related to Karta Pobytu. Which we're trying to control, and hopefully, the situation would get better. But I'm really glad that, you started your journey in Poland via Expats in Warsaw, and you could use the platform, kickstart your life.
And I always recommend it as well. When I meet new people,
really,
I genuinely do. Whenever I meet new people and they're looking for someone or they're looking for a job or whatever it might be, I normally say, check out the expat page, because
it's a good place to start.
Okay, you get a lot of arguments on there. You get no end of different people having silly conversations about whatever, but you also get information.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely.
So that's how I started my kind of teaching career. It just through expats, and then just turning up at this job and just winging it. In England, we would say blagging.
Blagging, okay, that's a new one.
Yeah.
So now, apart from your teaching job, what else are you doing?
Work-wise?
Work-wise?
That's it.
Yes.
I mean, a school I work for now has 2 different locations. So now I divide my time up between both the locations.
Oh, okay.
And on top of that, I have some private clients.
Right.
Thanks to you. And that's it. And I also do private English with children. There's one girl, I used to see a few more, but I don't have as much time anymore.
Right.
So I unfortunately had to stop doing some of them. But there's one girl that I've been seeing, I've known her since she was 2 years old, and she's now going to be 9.
That's crazy.
So,
it is to watch them grow up. Yeah.
Exactly, and weekly I still spend time with her and hang out. We're just friends now.
No, but then tell us also about, because you do music gigs on the side as well. So maybe just your experience and how you landed those gigs.
Well, actually, one thing I'd like to say is I've struggled in Poland with music, because when I first moved here, England's a bit more open in terms of the musical side.
In what sense open?
In the sense that there's way more live music.
It's more dynamic.
More dynamic. You go out. I used to live in Brighton, and that's where I went to university. I went to music university in Brighton, and every pub had someone playing.
Live music.
Whether it was a band, whether it was a solo artist, whether it's whatever, there would be live music. Down in the on the beachfront, there's this big promenade in the summer. I think they used to call it, Brighton Music Hall or something like that, and you could go and get gigs down there, right? So I was always gigging and doing pub gigs, or even the bar that I worked at was a music venue. Right, in England, right? So when I moved here, the transition, all of a sudden, I was like, well, where's the live music? There was a place called Club Harenda, which shut down for a while. I think it's back open again. They did live music. I struggled to get involved. I struggled to really integrate with them. I tried, but I feel like I kind of failed to lodge myself in with this group of people. And then Barzo does music. So there is a few places. I just really struggled, and I'm quite outgoing. I'm very talkative.
Absolutely.
I just struggled to really manage to infiltrate the music scene here, and because there's also not as many opportunities, it was harder for me to really, Is it
because the competition is more for such limited?
I think Polish musicians are really good.
Yeah, sure.
As well, but they are they're good because they are very classical and jazz trained.
Oh, interesting.
Very much so, more so than British people, right? English people.
Yeah.
I learned more of a kind of blues, pop, rock kind of stuff. So when I came here, although, at the time I was working professionally and I was working all the time, when I moved here, I just found it difficult because I'm not much of a jazz musician. I like jazz, but I'm not much of a jazz musician. I'd come here and I'd be like, I'm not quite good enough to, maybe I should have just got better, right?
Yeah.
But I couldn't get involved. And I kind of struggled a little bit to really become good friends with them, let's say. Maybe I didn't try hard enough, but that was my experience. I went there weekly, or not weekly, but when I could, every other week, and I just couldn't couldn't get involved.
To what extent do you think that language was part of that barrier?
Do you know it's tough? I think a lot of young people in Poland speak English. I don't think it's a huge issue nowadays.
Right.
Because like a lot of people do, not the older generation, but the younger, like people of our age and younger are pretty okay at English. So it wasn't that they didn't really speak English, but I think they had this like community that I think realistically I just needed to be around it more often.
More time invested,
but because I would just turn up alone every week, you know, it's only so much standing there having a drink and really trying to get involved in the conversations and kind of, you know, failing at it.
Yeah.
You can go, all right, I'm going to give up now. And that's probably on me because I just was like, I've kind of had enough of trying. So I struggled to get involved and do music here. But I do play music, and actually through a friend. I play, this is a part of the Shamrock, which we all know. Everyone will know. If you're an expat, go to the Shamrock. There's lots of foreign people there, right? I'll finish with the music thing. Basically, I met Curtis, who runs both the Shamrocks. Jesus, it was during lockdown.
Are there two now?
Yes.
The Shamrock Sports Bar and the Shamrock normal pub.
Really? Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, one's on around the corner. Literally, they're like 5 minutes away from
I had no idea.
So during lockdown, there was a few places. Halagavardi was open.
Okay.
It wasn't even dodgy. There was nothing wrong with
it wasn't dodgy.
It's a big warehouse for anyone that doesn't know, and they removed all of the chairs, and it was just this huge you know, you've been there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, and I met Curtis there. I met him in Halagavardi, and then he was like, I want to open a bar. Lo and behold, he opened a bar.
Yeah.
And then he wanted live music, and you know, he knew that I was a musician, and he invited me to come and play. So now the only gigs that I tend to really do are at the Shamrock.
Okay.
And again, like I think it's down to me just having a bit of a busier life now.
Yeah.
I probably could put myself out there and push for more.
Yeah.
But at the moment, I just play at the Shamrock essentially, and that's purely just down to the fact that I know the owner.
So if you're looking for a musician.
And if Zach's busy, we know other musicians as well.
Exactly.
So I just had a quick question because you came to Poland and the UK was part of the EU. And then lo and behold, we wake up one day and it's not. So how did that at all impact you as a Brit?
Yes, it did, but morely just in terms of Europe and not in terms of Poland. No one was sure what was going to happen, right? And I think that in hindsight, it's gone badly.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I think it's a common fact that it's gone badly. So for me, it was easy to be able to stay here, right? Because I had a PESEL number.
Yeah.
I've been working here anyway.
Right.
Everything was fine. I've been here for a while. So for someone who already lived here, had a PESEL, worked here, paid taxes, it wasn't a problem. I didn't even pay any money. I just went to the Urząd and I had to go through the rigmarole of getting a card.
Right.
And now, anytime I leave Poland on a flight, I just have to show them my passport and this card. And then
Karta, Pobytu?
It's not that. It's something special for Brits.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's not Karta Pobytu.
No, it's not.
Interesting.
It's I can show you if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll show you. One second. I'm not quite sure.
Well, what is it?
I'm not quite sure. It says something like, I mean, you can read it.
Okay. Ah.
But it's not quite.
It's more like a registration of your stay.
Exactly.
Oh my God, and it's good until 2031.
It's good for 10 years.
Wow. That's a privilege.
So it pays to be British, guys.
No, it only does if you lived here before.
Oh.
That's the point, right? So I got it.
Okay.
So if there was a new Brit coming in to Poland,
It's harder.
so they have to go through the Karta Pobytu process, or they can
This I'm not 100% certain, but you need to have visas now
Of
anywhere
course.
in Europe. So I got lucky because I lived here, and the governments and lots of Polish people stayed in England.
Right.
So they had to come to an agreement. Well,
What to do with everyone.
What about the people that are already living in said places?
Right.
Yeah.
We need to
Do something
accommodate
about
for
it.
them.
Right.
So this is what I believe the governments must have discussed, and this is what
They came up with.
This
must
makes
have come up
perfect
with.
sense, though.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I presume this must have happened all over the EU.
Right.
You know, because there's a lot of foreign, like EU citizens living in England.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of Brits living abroad,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm lucky that I have this 10-year thing, but it's because I was already here.
Yeah.
Sorry for the interruption, everyone. This is usually where we would insert our sponsorship message, but since we don't have one, shout out to anyone who wants to sponsor.
In the meantime, we're going to take this opportunity to ask you to please like this video and subscribe to this channel so that you never miss another episode. And if you're interested in being a guest on the Why Poland podcast, please feel free to reach us via email, which we have in the show notes down below.
Back to the conversation.
What do you think are some of the biggest differences, having lived here for so long already, between the UK and Poland?
The silly ones, like, literally spring to mind straight away are, okay, pub culture. I know that's really stupid, but like, it's such a British thing. Like, I've kind of been brought up around pubs. Friday, 5 o'clock, you're down the pub. Even as a youngster, I used to go like with my parents and stuff like that, right?
Okay.
And so it was, especially coming from a village, right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, that was the entertainment, right? In Poland, it's more about like bars. You go out, you have a shot of vodka at a bar. I mean, obviously you can sit down and have cocktails and all these fancy ones, but like the differences are just like, there's not really pubs here, you know? Or there's a lack of like what I would consider a real pub, you know?
Okay.
Maybe not what you would consider.
No, I think, you're seeing this from the English lens, I guess.
From the English lens,
Yeah.
exactly, how I consider it. So I think they're different.
Yeah.
And
How's it different though? Like, I'm just curious. Like,
normally kind of like the way they look.
oh, okay.
The way they look, the way they are. Like,
Or the way they smell.
the way they smell. But like, for instance, I find that one thing that, this is silly in pubs, right? In bars, Polish people like to go in, they have a seat, they sit down.
Yeah.
They sit down at the bar, the table, and they just talk, or they maybe have some food, have some drinks, whatever they do. In England, it's not, you're like, oh, of course we will go and sit down, but I'm happy to stand at the bar.
Right.
And that's kind of how I met one of my friends, one of my good friends in Warsaw, was literally standing at the bar in Legends
Legends.
and watching a football game.
Yeah.
And that's how I met him, because he just started, and he's Polish, right?
Yeah.
And he likes British kind of culture, and we just ended up sitting and talking, or standing and talking, right?
Yeah.
And so I know it's really silly, but it's a small thing
Mm-hmm.
about the differences there. There's kind of a
Yeah,
pub
the
that-
standing
again-
versus the sit-down culture.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we'll stand around the bar, have
Yeah.
chats,
Yeah.
queuing up. I can't stand in Warsaw or Poland in general. Going to a bar and queuing up. People literally make it's like communism ended a long time ago, and then
Whoa. Hold on, rewind. What alternative are you suggesting?
all right, this is the alternative.
Because if you're talking about chaos, I much prefer the queuing up.
Right, okay. Well, I prefer, just because this is what I had for so long, was a bar. And everyone just goes to the bar, and if you're a good bartender, you know who's there first.
Oh, I can't stand that. That's just chaos.
Right, yeah. Whereas in Poland,
Yeah.
people queue up, right?
Yeah.
One time I
Nice
was,
and orderly,
Yeah,
right?
one
Yeah,
time I was-
more organized.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I like.
See, and I'm from India, man.
Right, but how are you supposed to meet people if you're not standing at the bar talking? Right? All of a sudden, you've got this line where people queue up and they don't really interact with each other as often, right? You have a bar, you go stand at the bar, you're having a drink, someone comes and stands next to you, and then all of a sudden, you're talking to this person, right? As opposed to it being like,
no, I agree.
a line.
I agree. I think, whenever I'm in London, and, we're just ordering some drinks, the fellow customer will make a comment on what you're ordering or something, and, that becomes a conversation starter, and, you start having discussions about, very random things.
Random crap. Like, sometimes it's literally pointless stuff, right? But so I know this is silly, but that's like a difference where how in Poland they queue and they will always do this. Like oh my god, I was in a bar, Nola Bar. It used to be Coco
I know
Roy,
Nola Bar.
right?
Yeah.
And I was at Nola Bar one day, and I just wasn't even thinking.
Yeah.
The bar, literally, there was this huge line,
Yeah.
and I just walked in, and the bar was completely empty.
Yeah.
So I just went and stood there, and the bartender like looked at me and scowled at me, and then someone made a comment, and then she was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm just so sorry. I'm so used to like just going in and standing at the bar, right?" So again, that's just a silly.
That's hilarious.
That's a simple thing, right?
Yeah, it is. But that's
that,
hilarious.
that I'm not hugely a fan of. One of the other things that is slightly different is public transport.
What about it?
When I first moved here,
Yeah.
oh my god, Agata would kill me. I would be on the bus and I'd be like having a conversation and talking and like maybe on the phone, and like people like to be quiet.
Yeah.
Like, now, if you go to England, of course, if you go to work in the morning, people are tired. They're not going to be really loud.
Yeah.
But like, people aren't as quiet on buses and trains and public transport as they are in Poland. In Poland, you will kind of like, people will be annoyed that you're being loud or speaking on it, right? So that's a bit of a difference.
It is, yeah.
So I had to learn the hard way.
I guess they're more polite. They respect other person's boundaries and not to disturb them.
Yes, we don't.
We don't care about
in
that.
England, we do have trains which have quiet carriages.
Yeah.
Right.
Are you really quiet in those carriages?
Well, I haven't been, and I've been asked to leave before. So that's fine.
So you see where the problem is, though.
Yeah. So I think that that's just a difference, and I had to learn that. Oh, I shouldn't be too loud, or I shouldn't speak on the phone. I mean, some people do, right?
Yeah.
I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't do that. So that's a bit of a difference. What are the other differences? A lot of people speak English.
Yes.
And what I would say is having people speak English and having someone from where you're from are two different things, right? In the sense that culturally, they won't get some of the humor
right, of course.
that I have, maybe, and I won't get the humor that they have, right?
Yeah.
Even if they speak completely fluent English.
Yeah.
You're American, right?
Yeah.
Your TV was different to my TV.
Yeah, it's the pop culture references which could be different for you and for her, for me.
For everyone, right? So even though, and I had this conversation with a friend the other day in the car, he's Portuguese, his now ex-girlfriend is Polish, and he's got a son who's like 4 years old.
Yeah.
So Elio speaks Portuguese with his son, and the mum, Evelina, speaks Polish.
Yeah.
And we were in the car and we were talking, and my friend was like, oh, that's great, because culturally, he's going to get Polish culture and Portuguese culture. Yes and no, in my opinion, because he lives in Poland. He's not going to watch Portuguese TV channels. He's not going to watch, we all have those adverts that we remember as kids, right?
Yeah.
That boy isn't going to have Portuguese adverts.
Right.
He's not going to have the funny political things that we get. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So culturally, he's going to be more Polish than Portuguese.
Yeah.
Because he lived and is brought up in Poland.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right? So the reason I'm saying this is here, even though I have many friends who speak English, like you and like other people I know who are from many different places in the world, even though they speak great English, they may not have the same pop culture, the same cultural references as what I would have. And that's the same for anyone.
That's true for anybody
anywhere,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I don't have many British friends.
Yeah, that's true.
I have a few, and it's always nice when I talk to them about silly things that.
So maybe a nice segue. So tell me about how did you make friends when you first moved to Poland, right? And how easy or difficult was it because of the language barriers or the humor sensibilities being different? And how did you make the friends that you have been good friends with now?
Yeah. So when I first moved here, as I mentioned earlier, pretty much Agata was still a uni student, and I was sitting around doing bugger all for a long time. And now, at the time, I was a musician. Now, what I would say now is I got into hobbies. I found myself, and I got myself into things where other people were. So where the massive thing for me was football. I went to I met this Polish guy at the pub I mentioned to you earlier, standing at the bar. So it was actually, I think it was a Euros game or a World Cup game. I can't remember. Euros or World Cup. And I went with this German fellow who was Agata's friend's boyfriend. And so I just went with him. He didn't even like football, but he just wanted the girls were having a girls' night, so I went out with him. Right. I went to this bar and I met this guy. And he was my first real friend in Poland.
Right.
And that was just through literally going to the pub and watching the football and talking at the bar, right? And that's how I made my first friend.
Right. Yeah.
And then later on through Warsaw Social, which I think is now called Warsaw Global, or is it different now?
No idea.
Or it's gone now, whatever it is. Warsaw Social used to be a big thing.
Yeah.
There was a football event, and I went with this guy from the pub, and I went there and I met two good friends of mine, Luca and a guy called Michał. Michał lives in Dubai now, but we still friends with each other. And through playing this football game and meeting these people playing football, I then started having nights out with them.
Yeah.
And then they invited me to play football at another place. So literally my entire basis of friends now, group of friends, is because I went to the pub and because I play football. So I found something that you're gonna meet people.
That's a common thread between you and your friends at the moment.
It's football. It's for me, and lucky I love football. I'm terrible at football playing wise, but I like to play anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
And
are these like local teams or like
no,
how do
it's
you go
a
about?
group which now I run. Which by the way, so I run a group now, a weekly football group. So if anyone wants to be a part of that, they just have to get in contact with me.
Yeah, we can link it down.
Yeah, sure. And then I weekly play with various different people from all over the world. We have Africans, we have South Americans, North Americans, wherever, Asians. We have a lot of different people that come and play, and that's where I met the majority of my closest friends now.
That's really
Awesome.
cool.
Yeah, and it started as a Brazilian group.
Yeah.
With just Brazilians, and now it's evolved, and now we have like 3.
Yeah, you have more diversity now.
Yeah, now there's like barely any Brazilians left. But like, you know, that's how we started, and that's how. And now I run the group, and that's how I made the majority of my friends. So I would say my advice for people that come here.
Yeah.
Now it's different for everyone. Everyone's like on a different level of how shy they are or how outgoing they are, and everyone's different. So it's easy for me to say, do this and you'll get results, you know, because that won't work for everyone.
Yeah,
but my advice is you need to get yourself
out there.
And like one guy, I'll tell you a story. One person I met when I first moved here, I was walking down this lovely street in Bielany called Pobytu Street, lovely little street. And for those who know, and basically I was walking along and I said to Karta one day, I was like, I'm not really playing music with anyone anymore. I'm not really doing anything.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was like, the next time I see someone with an instrument, I'm just going to approach them. And I'm going to ask them, do they play anywhere?
Yeah.
Would they like, you know, do they have any space available? And then tell them that I play music and maybe we can try something. I met a random guy walking down Pobytu Street with a bass on his back. I said to him, hey man, do you speak English? And he was like, yeah, he used to live in America. Brilliant. So I then get talking to him and he was like, yeah, I do. And he literally ran a music thing for teenagers who were in bad situations.
Oh,
so for instance, maybe family issues.
Right.
They were living in like special housing for like teenagers. And what happened was I met him in a street. And I ended up going and doing like a 3-4 month music thing where I made like 1,000 zloty, right? But like still, I went and did it. It wasn't about the money. It was just I met these people.
Yeah.
So I approached someone randomly because my advice is if you have a hobby, whether it be football, cricket, rugby, walking, hiking,
Dance.
pub quizzes, dancing, get yourself engrossed in something like that. And go regularly and you'll see familiar faces.
Yeah.
And then that way you're going to meet people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think that some people do struggle sometimes doing that. Well, you need to get yourself... It's the same as networking, business networking.
Right.
If you're not getting yourself out there and meeting other people likewise to yourself, how are you ever going to grow within your business network,
Absolutely.
right?
No, I think it's a great advice because, you know, that's another very common question we do get on Expats in Warsaw, right? How do we make friends? Or, you know, it's been really isolating for some people where they just move in and it's winters and they don't know where to get.
That's tough,
Yeah, winter is tough.
Well, this is the thing, and this is like, so I used to go to, being a pub person, I used to go to Legends a lot. It's kind of English-style pub. The owner's English, Graham, known him for years now. And that's where I met a bunch of people. I met a good friend of ours, Anna.
Yeah.
You know, and she was a bartender there, and then became friends with her. And then I was friends with this guy, Jacek, from there. And now I still know a lot of these people. I may not be like the closest friend to them, but I go out and I see these people. Hey man, what's going on? You know, I have they're acquaintances of mine, I guess.
Yeah.
So if your goal is to meet foreigners, get yourself immersed. Pub quizzes are great for that.
Pub quiz. That's actually how I met another friend of ours.
Blueprint, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you turn up for a pub quiz and you might not have enough players, or you might be alone.
Yeah.
Hey, does anyone have a space available? I'm new here. And then that way, I know it's easier said than done, right?
For sure.
But if you don't get yourself into these situations, then you're gonna you're gonna be backing yourself into a corner.
It's a lot of trial and error as well, right? To find your people, the
right
people
that
you want to hang out with, right?
Yeah.
Who will end up being your long-term friends.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sure not everyone who is, who you have hung out with
throughout.
you
Exactly.
would not call them your friends, right? So,
no, exactly. I mean, luckily for me as well, I was actually talking to a Karta this morning about one of the stories how I met one of my really good friends, Bensa, was through a guy I played football with, a Hungarian guy I played football with. He had a son, and because I used to get on with him at this football event, he invited some of the guys that he got on with to a boat party on the river that he paid for. And I ended up going down to the Wisła, getting on this boat party with another Hungarian friend of mine, Peter, and Bensa was there. And now Bensa, and I just got talking to Bensa on the boat. And now all of a sudden, I've been friends with him for 4 or something years now, maybe longer, and I consider him like a very close friend. Just kind of through knowing people, you meet more people that you might actually end up being closer with than.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And it always lies in that decision of whether or not you're going to go. Because I remember the party that I met you at, actually, I almost didn't go to that.
Right.
Yeah, like I almost didn't go. I was like, there's going to be a bunch of people I don't know. Like my friend Maria invited me, and I really talked myself into going because I wasn't going to go. And then I went. And at the same party where I met you, like I was really anxious about it. I'm like, I don't know if I want to go. And then boom, both of those parties changed the trajectory of my friendships, right?
I think they always say as well is you have to put yourself into uncomfortable positions to make yourself feel comfortable.
Yes.
Right? And like sometimes you just don't want to do something, right? Sometimes you're like, I don't want to go to this point. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that, whatever it might be.
Yes.
But you might be missing out on something.
Yes.
Right? And I'm not saying like FOMO all the time, right?
Right.
But if you're new somewhere, if you don't get yourself immersed in these things because you're just like a bit nervous, you have to be nervous.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you got to get to the other side of
you
that.
got to get to the other
Of
side.
that
You got to,
discomfort.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I know, again, as I said before, it's easier said than done. But if you don't do it, you're going to struggle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like the same party Alexis is referencing to, it. Like I did not know anyone in that party. It was a friend who was invited, and he extended the invite to us as well. Yeah. And it was just meant to be. Sometimes, it just clicked where, Alexis and myself and my wife, we started talking and, we just became friends. And then we went on trips together. Yeah. Where sort of the friendship sort of blossomed.
Evolved.
Yeah.
But
it's like I said, it's a trial and error. Alexis wasn't the first person who I met in Poland.
Yeah,
no.
And I met other people who are no longer friends with or did not connect.
Yeah, not connect anymore. Yeah. Or whatever. Yeah, that happens, right? Yeah.
So, no, it's important.
So this is kind of like more of a sort of personal question, but having moved, because, it wasn't your intention to move to Poland. You just kind of ended up moving to Poland.
Random,
And then you ended up kind of staying in Poland for kind of a long time. Yes. So what have you learned about yourself through this process of leaving everything you've known behind?
Well, because I was a musician and I used to work abroad a lot anyway, I was kind of open and up. I didn't mind leaving. So I left England when I was 22 and because I worked in many different places. So moving for me wasn't an issue. Okay. So what have I learned about myself is like, I can move fine. However, as I've got older, I've now learned that I don't want to move anymore. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like when I was younger, it's easier for me to get up and do something and change my life. But now I've been here for 7 years with a few breaks here and there with, when I was doing music and that. Sure. Now I've got my people and I've got my life. I'm like, I don't want to start again, right? Yeah.
It's interesting you say that because I was going to ask whether or not you have settled down 100% or you want to move to a different country to get new experiences. Yeah. And
so I think now, would I, first of all, I don't even think I'd move back to England.
Okay. Interesting.
Unless you don't know what happens in the future, but I would only move there if it was a really specific instance, a circumstance, sorry.
Right. You got your big break.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I just don't think I'd go back there now, especially not the current situation that's going on in Great Britain in general and United Kingdom. Yeah. I wouldn't even want to leave Warsaw now.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't want to move to anywhere else because Warsaw for me is the place to be. Yeah. Although I like other towns and cities, for me Warsaw is the best. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Even maybe not the best place for a foreign a holiday goer to turn up because Warsaw is quite big. You kind of need to know what you're doing, where you're going. And Krakow is more popular. Wrocław is smaller. It's easier, right? But for me as a person, I've lived here. It's better than living in the other places personally.
So on that note, would you call Warsaw your home now?
Yes, I would. I would call it my home now, which is because even though I'd still call the village I'm from as well my home. Right. But Warsaw is now my place, and Poland is now where I live, and this is just my home.
And you see yourself retiring in this country in Warsaw.
Oh well, this is the thing. That's far in the future.
That's a whole other question. That's
interesting, and I've been thinking about it as I've got a bit older now. About I need to think about more pensions, and I need to think about my future, right? Because I've kind of been living in this I'm 25 years old, and I'm not. I'm 32. So that's something I guess that I need to really think about. But realistically, I guess probably, or. I don't know, maybe I'll get older and be like, I want more sun, I'll move to the south of Spain or something like that, something random like that. But it's really hard. Basically, in the the short term, which is like basically until this card runs out.
2031. Yeah.
Let's see how easy it is for me to get another card and stay here.
Right.
So long term is
so the next
is
process
the
will define where will you
exactly. But
continue living.
But again, I guess like as I said, it's kind of hard to just get up and leave now when you've made something, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you've worked hard building your community, right? And, your way of life.
Yeah.
So, I mean, going back to the name of this podcast, which is Why Poland. If someone was to ask you why Poland, what would you say?
Right. So my reasoning is why I would say someone to move here now is like it depends what job you're in. But let's say you're in some sort of corpo job. Economically, it's on the rise.
Yep.
It's super getting way more multicultural.
Yeah.
There's like why Poland or why I'm thinking more Warsaw because I live in Warsaw, right? But it's like it's really like on the rise, like in terms like when compared to what it was like 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Now this is the place kind of to be in Europe.
Yeah.
So I would say for work-wise, I have a better life here than I do in England.
Yeah.
Even though, like, if I earned the same salary I earn here in England, I would not be able to do half the things that I do.
Right.
You know? So in terms of just a better life,
yeah.
maybe you can try and move here and it would be better. Yeah.
So you moved here for love and you stayed here because of growth and the standard of living.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Now, if you were to leave for whatever reason, what do you think are the biggest challenges or sort of drawbacks of this country? Why would you want to leave? Or that would make you leave?
That's a good question. I mean, obviously, this is extreme and I doubt this would happen, but like if a war broke out, you know, if like the Ukraine war moved over to Poland, that would probably be...
That would be the first sign,
That would be the first sign. That would also be an extreme case.
Right,
I doubt that's going to happen, right? But if that happened, maybe then I'd be like, oh, maybe I should leave. You know? Other than that, I don't really think of anything. That's the thing. I like Poland a lot. I can't really think of a reason as to why I would want to leave. I think some people tend to moan about Poland a lot. And I see it online a lot. I see a lot of people complaining, why would you move here?
Well, as the polls would say, Zach, to that question, it's a national sport, complaining.
That's how you integrate.
I don't quite understand why so many people complain so much about Poland. Because I'm like, what are you complaining of? What is so wrong about it? All right, there's a few things that might be different to where you're from. But that's going to be anywhere you go, right?
True.
So yeah.
But is there anything that annoys you about, let's say, Warsaw?
Queuing at pubs.
He's already mentioned,
Queuing at pubs, getting moaned at pubs for queuing, being loud on public transport, getting moaned at for that. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. That's a good sign, right? I can't think of anything.
I can't think of anything.
I mean, obviously there probably is, right? Like going to the Ujond. Oh, God.
Anything public.
I think
anything governmental or public. I have to sort that out.
But at the same time, I think I've been living here 10 years now. It has improved. Can it improve a lot more? Yes, it can.
Right.
But it has improved, you know, really leaps and bounces, you know, compared to 10 years ago.
So, Zach, if anybody who is watching our show wants to contact you either because they need English lessons or they want someone to come in for a gig or they want you to come play for them or they want to join this football team you're talking about, how should people get in contact with you?
I guess the best way would just be Instagram. So it's Zach Thurston 1, which I guess would be better if you write that.
We'll include it in the show notes. So you can
write that down. And just find me on Instagram. The football thing, we have an app. So the best way to do is to get in contact with me on Instagram. And then I can kind of give you all the information you need. If anyone wants me to do any gigs, which I'm always happy to do, I like to do that. Again, I kind of like my kind of style is I go and I just do sing-along things and kind of try to get people to have a good time, have fun. Again, Instagram, and I do conversational English lessons as well. So again, if you need me, that Instagram, and you'll write that out. So
we'll make sure to put that Instagram in the show notes. So if anybody's interested, you can contact Zach.
And Zach, thanks a lot for coming, you know, to our episode.
First one.
It is the first one.
It's going to get big.
And if people really like you, maybe we can think about having you for the second time.
Anytime. Anytime. I'm up for it.
But
thanks so much.
Thanks a lot and taking the time out and being part of the show.
No worries. I'll send my invoice.
I'll send my invoice, yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Right, that's a wrap.
Thank you.